Welcome to Adoption Side by Side podcast, because no one should have to walk the adoption journey alone. I'm Steph.
And I'm Andrea. We walk the journey together, and we want to walk it with you, if you'll have us.
Welcome to today's episode. We have a very special guest today. A personal friend of mine, Sarah, is joining us. Sarah and I met back in 2006 doing theater, and we've had a lot of shared experiences through that. We were relating some of those funny times. And Sarah, what was your favorite show we did together?
Oh, man. Do you remember the Cow Tippers?
I do remember Cow Tippers.
That one was fun.
It was fun.
I do often reminisce about Hollywood Hillbillies, though.
It was
It was our very first one.
Classic.
That was a big cast, too.
It was a giant cast. Yep, that was the show we met. So
yeah.
That was
Andrea knew me in all my awkward phases.
The awkward phase we all have, so you know. Yeah, so Sarah and I, we grew up together. We've done sleepovers. We've hung out. We've gone
karaoke
nights, ballroom dance lessons. We've had a lot of history. And Sarah has a very unique perspective that we are very blessed she's willing to share on today. Sarah is a birth mom. Sarah made the decision to place her son for adoption, and we're very excited today to talk with her about the good that came of that and also the hard things that came from that. So just to get us started, Sarah, do you want to kind of describe the thought process that led you to even consider making that decision?
Yeah, so basically, I was living in a different state at the time. I was across the country, and I found myself with an unplanned pregnancy. And at the time, I was debating whether I should come home or not. And so I was like, well, I don't know. I was still with the dad at the time, and he and I had talked about it, and I was like, well, what do you think about adoption? Now, he comes from a different culture, similar to mine, and in that culture, adoption is just taboo. So
Sure.
He wasn't really keen on the idea, but he told me verbatim, I'm quoting him, do whatever you think is best. So I said, okay, and I was praying about it, and so I had always known people throughout my life that had been adopted or have adopted, fostered. So it wasn't anything crazy to me because it was just normalized in my life. But for me, I was like, okay, I am in this particular situation. So I did my research. I started looking online okay, what's it like to be a woman who gives up her baby for adoption? And I couldn't really find much of anything from my perspective.
Sure.
Of course, there's a lot of resources for if you're wanting to adopt or even support for adoptees. But really nothing even from a simple Google search was coming up for me. So I scoured social media because I was like, how the heck am I supposed to find whatever? So I found some resources from social media accounts, but there weren't many.
Sure.
So I was like, okay. And then I have friends who are single parents, and I sat down with them and I was like, I want you to be very real with me right now. Because in my family, there has been single parenthood, and I saw the effects of that. And so my friends were very real with me. This whole time I was contemplating, I was like, okay, I'm 6 weeks pregnant at this time. And I was like, I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And so I just kind of decided I was a part of this Facebook group, young women's Facebook group. And we did memes or what do you use if your kid is sick, or whatever, some silly things like that. And sometimes prayer requests. So I just posted a prayer request on there, and I was like, hey, this is my situation. I have an unplanned pregnancy. I'm thinking of moving back home, and I'm thinking of adoption or single parenthood. Just, something simple like that. And so I just waited on God. I was praying. I never left the church. I never left God. But, obviously I was living in sin from the choices that I had made, and that produced an unplanned pregnancy. But at the same time, I was like, God, at this point, like, it's not about me. It's about my child that I'm carrying. And I didn't really care about myself at that point. I needed wisdom in that moment and discernment to understand, like, okay, it's not my life, and I really don't want to mess this up. So
that's beautiful that you had that mindset.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So early on as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it was a struggle, like, even throughout my pregnancy, just not even battling, but just kind of going through the process of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but also even struggling and knowing what I needed to do. Very, very real emotions, obviously. But yeah.
Can I ask too, if you're willing to share this? Sure. What was the response of your community, whether your family or your friends, to you seeking out these options?
Yeah, funny you should ask that. I kept it on the down low for the most part because I didn't feel the need to, speak until I was so many months along. And obviously in the beginning, me and the dad were not really sure, whether to pursue that direction. But so we did keep it on the down low, but whenever it was out in the open, my family in particularly was not on board with that. My mother has been the only supportive figure in immediate family, so to speak. And my friends, though, like my close circle, were very supportive of me. Again, I had single mom friends, so they understood what that was like. Even the ones that have never been married or never had children, they were very supportive. I do have a close friend who is adopted, so she completely was backing me 100%. So I had the support from friends, but not family.
Okay.
I actually had a family member in particular who, when they found out, they were just trying to talk me out of it, and they got angry with me. And they were just like, they used some choice words, but they were like, you're going to ruin your child's life. Why aren't you and the father like this family member? They made it work out, And I was very calm, like, because I knew that they didn't understand. I would never want somebody to be in my situation where they had to make that decision like I did. But I was just very calm, and I was like, just kindly told them in a not so direct way, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, it is your decision.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Our father,
Exactly. So, yeah, I haven't really gotten a whole lot of backlash. Yeah, like, it doesn't really bother me that everybody's entitled to their own opinion. That's my mindset of everything, but they're not in my shoes. They're never going to. I would not wish that on anybody. Yeah. And, what's done is done. And at the end of the day, I did listen and hear from the Lord about what was supposed to happen. So they can take that up with him.
That's right.
So is that where you eventually found peace with choosing placement into adoption?
Yeah, for sure. My faith was definitely a driving force in that, because I was seeking the Lord of what to do, because again, it wasn't about me. And so I was like, okay, like I was praying. I was like, God, you need to give me a very clear sign. Like, it has to be black and white. Yeah. I can't not know. So yeah, like, I really feel that the Lord really helped me in that. And even in the postpartum period too, or even like before I was about to give birth, when I was, I would feel him kicking, and like, obviously I was very close to him. Sure. I was carrying him in my body. So, yeah, I just had to rely on the Lord, like, and just trust that I was hearing from him, even after he gave me the black and white sign. Because there's always like self-doubt,
Of course.
But I really just live my life like that. Like, even today, like, you have to trust the Lord that what he told you and then just follow through with it and just trust him. I mean, I don't know how else to put that.
No,
but
those are super wise words. So do you want to talk about how you eventually chose that adoptive family? Because your story is unique, I think, compared to maybe what Stephanie and I have experienced as adoptive moms on our end. We've seen kind of one way, but your way was a pretty amazing story.
Yeah, I kind of joke around that God just like dropped him in my lap.
Because you prayed. You wanted a black and white. You wanted to know.
I did. Yeah. So how I mentioned earlier through that Facebook group, I actually got some really nice replies, like, I'm praying for you, praying for wisdom. And then I got a message, and I'm terrible at reading messages on social media. I don't get to them till like, I don't know, weeks or months later.
I can relate. So
yeah. So a week later, after I had posted that, I just had this thought: why don't you just check your Facebook messages, whatever? So I open it up, and it's this woman, and she has this beautiful message for me. She's like, "Hey, like I saw your post, and I just wanted to let you know that I am praying for you, and your heart, and whatever decision you make, you're gonna make a great mama." And then she went a little further, and she said, "Hey, like by the way, no pressure, but me and my husband were just approved to adopt in May, and here's our profile, and if you want to take a look at it, if not, that's totally okay. I just wanted to let you know that I'm praying for you." So I felt that it was very genuine, that she was very genuine. And I just had, out of curiosity, I'll just like tap it, and opened up the link to the agency. I saw their profile, and I saw them, and I was like, oh, like this is really interesting. And so as they had like videos of the parents, so I was like, okay, they're just kind of mentally, I'm checking off these things of what I'm seeing and hearing from them. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I would want my kid to be raised, with their interests, and they have, their family, their community. And so I was like, that's really neat. So I was like, I guess I'll just message this girl. And so,
nothing to lose, right?
Yeah. So she seemed really cool. And I was like, yeah, like, I think I would like to get to know you guys more. And she's like, here's my phone number. And literally that's how it started. Like I obviously had to sign up with the agency that they were using so we could be matched, quote unquote. So put all my information in there, and I told the agency, I was like, this is who I want. Right. And because initially, like when you do go on there, as from my perspective, they give you all these profiles of different parents. And I mean, it's crazy like how, I hate to say this word, but like customizable it is. Like,
no, we've both felt that way on our end as well. Like we saw birth mother cases, and it was, if you didn't feel connected in some way, on our end, we got to say no. And I'm sure on your end, if you didn't feel a connection, you said no.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, it's funny because like when I first signed up, even though they knew that we were going to be like matched.
Sure. They knew you had a family in mind already.
They still gave me profiles, and I was just like, not to be mean, but like, nope, like, because I knew, and I just felt like that this was something special with this family.
Well, it was probably more of a confirmation from the Lord that this was the right family, because you could compare it, with other families, and those just weren't families you felt like were the best match for you and your child.
Yeah. Even looking at their picture, like I felt some sort of connection. It was definitely a God thing. So, that's how it started. We started texting each other, and then when I told her, I matched with the agency, and then they did encourage us to, I'm trying to remember, I don't know if we had a phone call before we officially matched.
Right.
Or obviously we had each other's numbers, so we were like in touch, and I wanted to get to know them more. So.
Right. And when you did have that match in the, I guess, the legal sense of the word, how far along were you at that point?
So I'm trying to remember, this is so long ago. I think at the 16-week appointment, because I had to have, and this is just how this agency works. I don't know how other agencies do it, but at the 16-week appointment is when you officially match. Like you have to submit the documents that you went to the 16-week appointment, because I think that's the anatomy scan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is so long ago.
That's okay.
But yeah, so we officially matched at 16 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, what did that look like for you after matching? How did doctor appointments go? How did the conversation continue with the match family?
Yeah, so basically I would keep in touch with them, whenever I went to my appointments, just to let them know, I'm going to this appointment, and they would pray for me, and, everything was fine, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm trying to remember, before I moved cross country back home, I think I had 3 appointments there, and then the rest obviously were here. But I do remember when I went to get the gender reveal ultrasound, and I told them, the potential adoptive parents, I said, I'm going to do this, but I want to do it with you guys. I want to do a gender reveal with you guys. So because they were 3 hours ahead of me, we planned the time. I told them what time it would be. And then I told the nurse, because she's like, do you want me to tell you what the gender of the baby is? And I was like, can you write it down on a piece of paper and close it in the envelope? And she's like, sure. So I went out to the car, and I couldn't wait, because I couldn't wait to see, but I waited until we FaceTimed, and I put it away from my face so that way they could see first. And so they're like, it's a boy. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I let them kind of have that moment with me, where we could have it together of seeing the gender reveal. And I think I know that meant a lot to them, but that also meant a lot to me, that I wasn't alone.
Sure. No, and I'm sure that helped you all connect even more, on a deeper level than what you had already connected at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was very special, and I look back fondly on those times and the moments that we did share in the pregnancy, because it was pretty early on by the time that I think I was maybe 6 or 8 weeks, but so I was really early on by the time that I knew that the Lord had put adoption on my heart, and then from meeting her. So they were kind of with me in the beginning stages of this pregnancy too. So that was really special for sure.
So did you gave birth here in Pennsylvania, and then they traveled here?
Yes.
Okay. So what did that experience look like for you with the delivery, with your hospital stay, with baby? What?
Yeah.
Were they able to be here when you delivered, or did they arrive after delivery?
Yeah.
Everybody's case is different with that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So funny story, how things flip-flop on you. So my birth plan did not go as planned. Was originally supposed to be at a midwife center. I wanted my birth plan to go a little more differently than a hospital birth. That's just where I felt more comfortable. And everything was fine up until 37.1 weeks. And everything was great. Blood pressure was fine. Blood work was fine. Everything was great. I noticed the day before I was out with a friend, and I had shooting pain up in my right rib, and I had a horrible migraine. That did not happen. I had a really fairly smooth pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. It was great. But the next morning, it was a Thursday morning when I noticed this. I was at a prayer meeting that morning, and I noticed that my hands were swelling very badly, and I could hardly. I know you can't see, your audience can't
She's
see
bending her fingers.
I'm bending my fingers, and it was so painful, and my rings were embedded in my fingers. And I was like, this is not normal, but I kind of absent-mindedly, it's fine, I have my appointment that day. So we go in, and they do the regular check, take my blood pressure, and they're like, just sit for another 5 minutes and maybe don't talk, put your feet on the ground. And I knew something was up, and I was like, they usually don't do this. And so they still wouldn't tell me after 3 times of doing this. And they're like,
that's how you know something's wrong. You're like, just say it.
You're making my anxiety even worse.
Exactly.
Just tell me what we're thinking.
Yeah. So then they're like, you need to go to the women's hospital. And I was like, oh, like at this point, stupid me. I did not have a bag packed at that point because I thought it wasn't due until like 3 weeks later. So I was like, I'm fine. But they were like, no. I was like, oh, can I just go home and like pack a bag? They're like, no, you need to go to the hospital like right now. And I was like, and they still wouldn't tell me. So, so my mom was with me, and she's like, okay, like we'll go. And so they took me up to triage. They had all the paperwork was already transferred, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And I just kind of knew. I was like, God, maybe this is it. I was kind of in denial, and I was like,
Sure.
Oh, like, because he's not due for another 3 weeks. You know how women, like, we want to have everything
Of course.
in place.
We like things to go according to our plans.
Exactly. We want to be prepared.
Our plans are not his plans.
That's true. So
his meaning both God and the baby in this case. You know,
So I was like, okay. So they put me in triage, and they're like, yeah, you have preeclampsia. You could die. And I was like, okay, great. To prevent me from having seizures, because I didn't know how bad my blood pressure was until I saw the monitor, and it was 3 digits on top and bottom.
Oh, man.
And so they tried to give me like an oral pill to keep my blood pressure down. That did not work. So she's like, I'm so sorry. We have to hook you up in an IV. And I was like, oh God. And like, I hate needles. Like that has always been the bane of my existence. Not blood, just needles.
Sure.
So I was like, okay. And then I kind of realized, like, when she told me, she's like, and again, at this point, they don't tell you like what's happening. They just tell you, I'm going to hook you up. They don't actually tell you, because she's like, oh, you're 3 centimeters. So I was like, okay, cool. But then she's like, the only way to stop this is to deliver. So I was like, oh, well, there's goes my birth plan out the window. Like, he's not even ready yet. But I have to have him to stop us both from dying. So, my mom was with me, and I was scared, and I called the adoptive parents, and I was like, listen, this is what is happening. You know, I'm going to have to deliver. And she's like, okay. Like, she was so excited. She's like, okay, not for obviously my brain, but I told her, like, he's coming. So she's like, okay. Like, they packed their bags, and they drove like 10 hours. So in the meantime, I called my son's dad, and I was like, this is what's happening. And so they put me in a room. I was kind of freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm hooked up, I'm drugged up. They put me on magnesium, which feels like icy hot in your veins. It's very uncomfortable. I was on a monitor, and like, my mom was there. She's such a trooper. Like, she did not go home. I was in labor for 3 days. Wow. And it was awful. I couldn't eat. They wouldn't let me eat. I could only like drink broth or Jello or water, whatever. And I was like starving and sleep deprived. But that was the first time that I met my son's parents was in the hospital. Okay. And so, like, I told the nurses, I was like, listen, I want them in the room. I don't want you to keep them from the room. So, thankfully, like, the hospital did allow my mom, them, and obviously me, and then the whole club of nurses and doctors that would come in and out. So, I was treated very well there. Like, everybody was very, very kind and considerate, and I think curious, because a lot of them probably don't see that on a daily basis of the birth mom with the adoptive parents. And it was like obviously we had talked, FaceTime, called, texted before, but it was so different, like seeing them face to face. And it was like different. I don't mean like awkward or uncomfortable. Like, it was like we kind of knew each other all our lives. Right, and like, it was so neat to like see them in person. And so we would just like share stories, and like we would just talk, and it was really nice because the hospital actually gave them a room to sleep and rest in. So I was thankful that they got to rest too. So yeah, it was a really cool. Looking back on it now, like, I see this does not happen on a daily basis. This does not happen even for someone like me or them as adoptive parents. Like, just this whole thing, like, I think I said in the article that the handprints of God were all over this. And it's so true because, like, again, I don't take any of that for granted. I realize how blessed I am that happened that way. But where we had a lot of favor, like with the hospital staff and just everything in general.
Yeah,
So.
I'm really glad you had that experience because that was something I was kind of nervous about at the hospital.
Yeah.
And from our end, they were treating us super great. And they're like, oh, this is awesome. But I was always had that back in my mind. I hope that they were being as positive and encouraging.
Right.
On her end, no extra pressure. No, like this is, I mean, yeah, it's not normal per se. It's not what we normally see when a mom comes in here, but it's beautiful in its own way.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you felt you were treated well.
Yeah,
there.
yeah, for sure. Like, there was no pressure even from anyone, really.
Yeah.
You know, I told them this is what's going to happen, and they understood. But, yeah, I just felt that there was a lot of peace in that room. And so,
That's awesome.
It was so special, for sure.
So that's, I think, that's the happy part.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it looked like post-birth and placement and kind of how you found just peace and healing through those difficult moments?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I will say, like, kind of just to preface that, I was prepared for that. I knew kind of from the beginning, quote unquote.
Sure.
So that did help in the aftermath.
Because you had like months to sort of process and think through.
To think about it, and which sadly some people don't do.
Sure.
And that can be even more difficult to cope if you just absentmindedly have a pregnancy and then, you decide at the last minute that has happened. But in my case, and two, I did have I lost my dad 5 years ago. So I kind of understood grief, but I didn't understand how this grief works. Because my therapist, I was mandated a therapist by my attorney. And she's great. She has a background in social work, and she actually specializes in adoption and birth mom therapy. So that was really helpful for me. Yeah. So she kind of helped me. Like, I had gone to her before placement and before I gave birth. I was a little late to the game. I think I was 28 weeks when I met her. But that really helped prepare me. And she explained how it's a complicated grief, what birth moms go through, because it's not a finalized grief where you know that your child is still alive, but you have to grieve, like, the parts of your life that you can't live with them. And so, like, I'm not raising my son. I'm missing, like, his big moments, his highlighted moments, his first walk, his first word, first school day. And that's something that I have to cope with for the rest of my life. So, and understanding that kind of helped me, like, in the aftermath.
Did it help to just kind of hear that those feelings are normal?
They're valid feelings.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like, it's funny, like, how some people would be like, well, just get over it. And it's like, no, this is something that you have to face. Right. And some people don't want to face that. And I think that obviously is a problem, especially when you wait at the last minute to make a decision.
Sure.
But
do you find peace in receiving pictures when those milestones happen, or like knowledge, like you're not living it daily with him,
right?
But you're still able to see it since your adoption is open and you have that connection with the birth family. Does that help with those trying moments?
Yeah, like in the first year, like, of his life is when she would, like, every week, like, she would give me a slew of pictures because they grow so fast in that first year. So, like, I was really thankful for that, and that did help. Like, she did, I think it was, like, his first steps. Like, she did video that for me.
Right.
And it was really special. But obviously I can't be there for the whole, she can't video every single moment of his life, and that's okay. But yeah, that did help for sure. Like, I will say very vulnerably. so I was in the hospital for 4 days in total. I was in labor for 3. But the very last time that they were in the hospital, meaning when they got to take him home, when he was discharged, that I had a moment like where I held him for the last time, and it was like, well, what I thought was the last time. And like, I was really contemplating like, oh my gosh, like this is it. He's gonna go home with them and I'm gonna go home empty-handed. And so I started to cry, and my mom started like comforting me, and they were crying too, like, because they understood like how hard that was. And I was just, well, I told myself I wouldn't cry.
No, because you probably looked at me and saw my tears, so you're fine.
I already have them here.
Yeah. That was like 2.5 years ago.
It's okay.
I still cry about it.
That's the whole point, though. It's still real. It's still like, I feel like even if it's not as raw, it's always going to be
absolutely
that moment. Is forever
and that's a day that hearing you say it is something that I know we both dreaded.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because we said, how
not
can
the choice
we do
of the
that?
words, but we're taking the baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was so thankful that our case was the way it was, and I didn't have.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, and I told Andrea before we even met, I was like,
so
I don't think I
hard.
can do that day.
Yeah.
Because the gift of life that the birth mother gives their child,
Yeah.
and then the gift that birth mother gives to the family that can't have a child or desires more children, or whatever the circumstances are for why the adoptive family is adopting. That mother is giving that gift, and I've said that from day one, that I will forever be thankful for the gift that the two gifts, one to keep him, and then to place him in my arms.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the greatest gift that, like,
yeah.
Because
I mean, you know it's coming, obviously.
Right.
And then, like, it's the very surreal moment of, you know, because they did let me hold him as much as I wanted in the hospital. They even let me feed him. So, which was such a blessing too. So like, you know, we were able to bond a little bit, but, and the thing that I was worried about, like with him especially, was like, you know how some, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this, but I hear this a lot in the birth mom community. Like, it's traumatic for the baby to be handed to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they don't know her scent, you know, they don't know her voice.
Right.
But the thing that I did is beforehand, like months beforehand, I'd ask them, can you send me like voice messages of your voice talking to him? Yeah. So that way he knows your voice. Because I didn't want it to be traumatic for him. So, because obviously I was carrying him around everywhere. He only knew me, but I wanted him to know them. So I would talk to him too, like, you know, I'm your mom, but you also have another family, and you're going to call him dad and mom. And, you know, I told him their names and, you know, all that. So I was kind of preparing him for that, because I believe that babies in the womb can hear and feel everything. So, yeah. So I didn't see any trauma signs, you know, whenever, because honestly, he was just passed between the four of us. So it was nice. So, like, I didn't want that to be traumatic for him. And honestly, it wasn't traumatic for me either. It was just me coming face to face with those emotions and those feelings.
Well, they had to feel like there's a finality to this is the moment. Not that your relationship ends, but it changes. Like from here, there's just a part that's different.
Yeah, yeah. And like, it's so funny. My pastor, he would always say that like children are like your heart walking around in somebody else's body. And like, I was like literally giving my heart to this other couple to care for, and I entrusted them. So, and then after that, after they left the hospital, I went I took a shower. They, you know, took the IV and everything off, and they're like, yeah, you can take a shower. And that's when I really broke down. Like, I've never felt that, that grief. Like, obviously I had, experienced my dad dying, but this was on a whole other level. And like I just remember that moment in the shower, like I just broke down, and it was painful. It was like somebody like took my heart out of my body. But you know, life goes on, and I don't say that nonchalantly. Right. But I was able to see them when they were waiting for their adoption to be finalized. It's all through snail mail. They don't do it through email, so they had to wait. They didn't know how long. Sometimes it could be a week, 2 weeks, or a month. Who knows?
This is the ICPC process. Yeah. The approval that they could go home.
So, and they had to be like approved, like the paperwork had to be approved in both states. Right. Otherwise, if they crossed the border, then if they were caught, that'd be kidnapping. Right. So we
were just talking about that earlier, talking about
isn't that weird? Yeah.
And we said ours had to be 3 states because it was Ohio, but the agency was Utah and then Pennsylvania. So all 3 had to be like, okay, you are legal to take this child. So
and then how it depends on when the baby is born, if there's holidays.
Sure. Yeah.
We were born right before Christmas, so we had those. So we just were discussing that ICPC process and how every part of it is different for every single case and every single state.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you could see them during that time. That was really awesome.
They just invited me and my mom. They were like, hey, like, come visit us. Yeah. And
that's so special.
Yeah, they let us hold him, and she took pictures of us and videos, so that was really special. And to get to know them more, too, like in person. Mm-hmm. So they were just very, very open and very loving. Honestly, like, they treated us like family. They still treat me like family because we are family. Yeah, we're like an extended family of them, and it's the child that brings us all together. So, yeah.
And they didn't have other children?
No, not at the time, no.
So, you're first and they're first.
Yeah, it was so special. Like, I really loved seeing the joy on both of their faces. They held my legs whenever I was giving birth, and because I told the nurses, like, I want them to be a part of this.
Sure.
And so, like, and the dad cut the cord. They did place him on my chest, so I was like, oh my gosh. He gave me one final kick, like, before he came out, and I was like, wow, he popped out. He's here. So, yeah, like, it was a very joyous time, but
especially after 3 days of labor.
Oh my god, I was exhausted, and all I wanted was pizza.
I'm sure. Did you get pizza?
I got pizza. It was great. Good. Oh my gosh. But yeah, kind of to backtrack on what you asked, like, what was it like healing and coping afterwards? So obviously, I went from putting him in their arms at the hospital, and then getting to hold him several more times before they actually left the state. And I knew that was kind of like the finalized closure that I needed to, like, in my mind, like, okay, they're going to their home in another state, and I don't know when I'm going to see him again. Obviously, I knew that I was going to see him through FaceTime and phone calls, and obviously they are open to visits, but I didn't know, like, financially, you never know, like, what happens in life. So that was kind of like the last time that I got to hold him at where they were staying. I was kind of thinking, oh my gosh, do I really want to do this? Like, do I really want? But I knew I had my feelings about it, obviously, but I knew the reality of what it would be like if I were to bring him home, and my life wouldn't have changed. Meaning it would have with a baby, but it might have complicated my life because I was not ready to have a baby in that kind of environment. So, and even like afterwards, months afterwards, weeks, and I was just thinking, like, I had to keep reminding myself, like, this is reality. I would miss him, and I would talk to him all the time because he was with me all the time.
He's with you for months.
I would feel him. So it was kind of like dealing with the changes in my body. And I was never diagnosed with postpartum depression, but obviously, like, it's a grief. Come on. Like, I was dealing with that. And I had therapy. My therapist was, we would meet at first, like, several times a week, and then I would just tape her off, like whenever I needed her. So,
Sure.
And then just kind of, I think it's important when you go through something like this, because some people are like, oh, it's a trauma. Like, yeah, it's a trauma, but this is something that I chose. This is not something that was like taken from me. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, unfortunately, but I had to choose my hard. That was really what like brought me to that. Like, single parenting is hard. Even if you're married and have children is hard. Abortion is hard. Adoption is hard. Choose your hard. Life is going to throw you stuff that you don't expect. But I had to choose, like, okay, this is what I chose and I have to face that. And that's honestly what helped me through the process, is just reminding myself on a daily basis even that this was what God wanted. And also, my son's in a stable home. The three things that every child needs is stability, security, and safety. And I knew that with this family, he would have all of that.
Right.
And because let's be honest, like, you can give somebody all the love in the world, but that's not going to change their reality, and that's not going to change their environment. So I knew, like, they obviously love him so much and I love him so much, but they were able to give him the things that I couldn't at the time. So that brought me a lot of peace. And obviously, again, the support that I had was so helpful. And even friends that obviously have not been through this situation like I have, and they probably never will, but they had a lot of sympathy towards me, and they would always check on me and if I needed to talk or vent or whatever. But yeah, I'll be honest, like, I don't see it as something hugely, like, I mean, obviously it's life-changing, but I'm not wounded from this experience because, again, this is something that I chose, and I knew that I had to make that choice in order for him to thrive. And he is, like, he's the happiest little baby ever. And he's the cutest, not to be biased, but like, yeah, like, he's happy and he knows. What's really beautiful too is, like, he knows, like, who I am. Like, she has, like, a little, not a scrapbook, like a photo album of his life. He knows me and his dad, his biological dad, and she kind of, like, puts it like a timeline, like, through his life, and they narrate what happened, who these people are, and then he repeats it back to them. He's very smart. So that's how they kind of visualize it for him, because we can't always FaceTime or whatever. So he knows. I mean, he's still little, so he might not be able to comprehend everything, but he at least has that knowledge from the beginning. You have two moms, two dads,
What would you say to other women or families considering placing a child for adoption? So to other birth families.
Yeah. If they're considering adoption, I would say do what's in the best interest of the child, point blank. Like, it's not about, I don't want to sound like so negative or so nonchalant, but it's like, it's not about you. It's about what is best for them. And if that being with you and you raising them is what's best for them, then if you have, again, safety, stability, and security, you're financially well enough to be able to care for them for all of their needs. You're in a calm, peaceful environment where you can raise them the way that you want to. There's no conflict, then by all means do that. But I mean, if you want to look into adoption, definitely, vet your agency, vet the adoptive parents, get to know them. I know that, again, it's so hard because my situation was so unique and, like, literally, again, just dropped in my lap. But, like, for people seeking adoption, like, they really need to make the decision as early as possible, I think, but really to assess their life and how the child can fit into that life, and then just go from there. Again, I'm not for either or. Right. Like, that's
everyone's story is unique. Yeah. Everyone's circumstances are unique.
Yeah, that's ignorant to say, like, oh, every unplanned pregnancy should end in abortion or adoption. No, if you have, again, those resources and not just love, but the reality of your situation, then absolutely parent or, I don't think that adoption should have a negative concept around it, because in some cases, it is very necessary. But it's also wise just going into adoption, being very self-aware of what your circumstances are, and then just going off of that and what's best for the child so they can thrive and have the best life possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wise words.
Yeah.
What recommendations, kind of on the flip side of that, do you have for adoptive families to help their child's first mother feel loved and appreciated throughout that process and post-placement?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say honestly, like, ask her what she feels most comfortable with. Like, is she comfortable with visits? Is she comfortable with photos? Like, my adoptive mom, obviously when it was fresh, like the first several weeks, she would ask me, are you okay with me sending you pictures? Because she didn't know my mental state of mind, that might make it worse.
Right.
Obviously, I never said no because I was okay. So, but that's all. That's a good way. Obviously, like, if you don't know her that well, just ask those questions, have those boundaries with her. But at the same time, if you can give her, like, send her gifts or something, like around Mother's Day to make her feel loved and appreciated. Sometimes, a birthday card, maybe, if you know when her birthday is. Every situation is different. So just be mindful of that. But that definitely helped me. My adoptive parents give me gifts a lot. So, like, I'm wearing a bracelet with his birthstone. And they gave me, like, a locket when he was first born with his little picture in it. So that was really special. Yeah. But yeah, there's different ways. And even just, I would say too, like, getting to know her as a person.
Outside of she's a mom.
Yeah.
What else?
Like,
who else is she?
Because she is technically part of your family. Right. And so, like, I think that made me feel very much appreciated when my son's adopted mom didn't just ask me, when I was pregnant, how's the baby? Right. She asked about me, like, how's work, or if she knew that I was going to an event or something, how was that, like, just making her feel like a person instead of just like, oh, you were the carrier of my, my child.
Just that, no big deal.
And I can say on our side, that is something that through our counseling and our classes is stressed. She is a person first.
Yeah.
Not just the carrier of your to-be child.
Right.
Make sure you build that relationship with her and ask, how are you feeling?
Right. Yeah.
Is there anything we can get for you?
Right.
And I think that's important too, because I think sometimes people think that adoptive parents are just there for the baby.
Right.
Well, no. If you're in the right mindset for why you're adopting, you're there for birth mom and baby, depending on the circumstances of what birth mom has decided what she wants.
Right.
And we have to respect what birth mom wants.
Right. Yeah.
And all of that. So there's that side of it too.
Yeah. And there was a time where I was not open to an open adoption. They're the ones who actually told me about it. Sure. I didn't know what an open adoption was. And the agency that we were with, they did talk about supporting the birth mom. They had a lot of information for us, which I appreciated because I know a lot of agencies don't. So they put a lot of emphasis on caring for the birth mother. Like, from the agency, I would get gifts from them and like gift cards and like whenever they could. And I got free counseling and like they really cared about me and I felt
That's
cared
so important.
for. Yeah. Before any of that happened, when I met my son's adoptive parents and we started like talking over the phone, they were like, yeah, like, we want to have an open adoption. We think that that's great. But whatever you're comfortable with, we are willing to do. Sure. And at first I was like, I don't know. I'll think about it. Because I thought that all adoptions were closed.
Right.
Again, I didn't know any of this going into it. There were still some times throughout that I thought, well, maybe I should close it. It wasn't anything about them. It was just me being, well, I don't think he's going to care. But just in case he does care, I looked at the studies that psychologists and psychiatrists did, and, there's less behavioral problems, emotional issues, stuff like that, if the biological parents are in the picture, that they know them. So I was like, well, I guess I'll stay for it. But, I am thankful that they are open to whether, you know, I would have it open or closed. So that was a blessing that they were very chill. Like, they're just like, you know, do, you know, whatever you want. It's fine. Yeah. So that was great.
That's awesome. So aside from Sarah and I being personal friends from back in our crazy theater days, we were wild kids. We weren't. Spoiler, we were not wild kids.
No.
Another way we've been kind of connecting over this recently is Sarah actually started an Instagram account called First Mother Rights. Sarah, do you want to talk about why you decided to start that account and what you use that for?
Yeah, so basically it's a resource of what I didn't find on the internet. Again, in the beginning when I was talking about, like, I was trying to find on social media, like, connect with people that had gone through that, and I didn't really find a whole lot. And even the one that I did find, she no longer has that account. So I was like, well, I guess through this experience, I need to talk about it. And I just felt it really strongly on my heart. And it's not just for birth moms. It's for, even if you're curious, you know,
Sure.
Even if this is no relation to you whatsoever. I just think it's interesting. So I just speak about, like, my experience. I often go into detail. I do take questions from people if they're ever curious, but it's mainly as a resource for just if you're curious or if you want to think about adoption, either way, as an adoptive parent or as a birth mom. So basically, and it also was kind of like in the early days of me as a coping mechanism as well, to help me voice what I was feeling, and just it brings into a greater perspective of what had happened.
Right.
And it was neat that I could document that on video. So, it's basically just as a resource. And, you know, so it was something that I wish that I had, basically, when I was looking.
It's kind of similar to why we're doing the podcast, is we said it's not that maybe there's not resources through agencies or consultant groups that they give you, but we wanted to hear the personal experiences of what did this look like? Because same as you, we didn't know about, I mean, I've heard of open adoption, but just usually I'd heard of that through, like, a foster care, because of course they know their families, right? And I didn't know what any of that looked like and what it could mean. So,
well, and I didn't know that there was the semi-open option either, where you have some communication, but maybe not visits. And I mean, I knew that there was open, but I just thought it was a choice of open or closed. And I was still in the understanding that most were closed, as were you, because it's changed a lot throughout the years. Because society has gotten a little bit better with the understanding that it doesn't need to be fully closed if both parties are willing.
Exactly, yeah.
And that starts with birth mom.
Absolutely.
And birth dad, if he's involved.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I wish that there were more even birth dads. I know men usually are more closed off than women. Yeah, because I know that it affects them too.
Absolutely.
And, like, I wish that there were more resources, maybe in the future, who knows.
But
like, I think adoption has come a long way, because even my friend, she was born in the early 2000s, like, hers was completely closed.
Right.
And she doesn't, like, for health reasons, she needs those medical records.
Sure.
But now I know that it is, in most states, at least from my understanding, you have to have the medical records. Because that's what I did, like, the first time that I met with an attorney, me and the dad, we went through, like, a very detailed paperwork of our medical. So that brings me a lot of hope. I know that there are things that do need to change in the United States, at least, or the West in general, concerning adoption, but we have come so far in, like, education, and I hope that it continues. They do more studies, and they do more, like, my goal, honestly, too, with my account as well, is to have more positive stories like mine. Again, I know that mine is so unique to me, and it was definitely a God thing, but I do wish that for every single adoption that happens, like, where there can be unity and the common goal of it's about the child and what they need. So that's pretty much my goal, and sharing my story too.
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. Again, if you want to check Sarah out on Instagram, it is First Mother Rights. That's just all one word, right? First Mother Rights. Yeah. There's no dots. There's no dashes. Just First Mother Rights. I'm just curious, when you were talking about, you would hope there's some things in the adoption world that may still change. What would be your main things from your perspective you wish would change?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I've seen so far is the language surrounding adoption. I think the certain words that we've used over the years are harmful, to both sides, like give away. I don't think we're not giving our baby to you. I mean, we are, but we're
giveaway. I feel like has always implied I don't want, therefore I give,
and taking. And I know I am like I've used those words just because it's what other what is the word choice we should be using? Like we take the baby. I did take the baby. She did give the baby, but I do. Well, after I hear them, I'm like,
it just feels.
Is
wrong.
There a different word choice? And I think that's something we need to look at. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Even again, like some things that I've said in telling my story, and I'm like, oh, that leaves a bad aftertaste in my mouth.
Right.
Like, so I think that's because words are very powerful. So especially like when you're talking about it, or like even in the legal sense. So I think that's definitely like, and I know again, because we're so used to hearing it like in movies and media and whatever, definitely like the verbiage needs to change. I believe that there can be a reformation of adoption for sure. It's probably going to take a lot of time, but another thing too, I don't know how I feel. I know in some states, like in some southern states, that they don't leave the original name of the birth parent's name on the certificate. I realize that it is, they have to change it on the certificate for legal reasons. Sure. Obviously.
To give those adoptive parents the power to proceed.
Right. But for kids like that maybe weren't told that they were adopted, I think that's wrong. Let's just put that out there. I think it's wrong that parents will tell them that they're adopted and they ever go to look for their birth parents. They can't go to their certificate to find their original name. So again, I understand, and this is just my opinion.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So like, I think that should be changed.
That honestly surprised me because I know when we went through that process at the end, they're like, well, it's a new birth certificate with your names. And you're right. It's almost like that part is erased for legal reasons. I kind of understand it, but at the same time, is it that far of a stretch that there is an original birth certificate?
Can't you have two or
exactly,
something?
Or even if there could be a way to include the adoptive parents' names or the birth parents' names on the same certificate. I wondered that. I'm like, that just seemed like it erased a little part of my son's history.
Right.
And obviously, we do, thankfully, in our open adoption, we do know his parents' names. We have met his parents. We were blessed to do that, so we can tell him.
Right.
But it did feel weird, just in the legal sense. It's like, well, that doesn't exist now. That's weird.
It kind of erases them.
Well, and I guess on my end, because our case is different, I am okay that we have this new that lists us, because I know that as much as that other one is erased, it is still in the birth state. Yeah. It's filed there. So that birth certificate might not be like technically in that vault since it's here in Pennsylvania, but it's locked in Arizona.
Yeah.
At least
so he
could find that.
And since we will share that Andrea and I were talking about that earlier, he will know he's adopted when the time is right for him and in the age appropriateness. Yeah. We'll share. Sure. But for me, I guess I'm okay with that because I know it's there so that if we need to, we can backtrack to get it.
If it's something he'd ever even just want, to have.
But I can also say that was something, at least for us, we never saw his original birth certificate either because of legal confidentiality and all of that, I guess. Yeah. So we never even saw that. Like, I never saw his given name at birth and all of that. I've only ever seen our birth certificate for him.
That's a good point too. And I can definitely understand that just based on different circumstances for sure. And different states have different laws. So it's different if you live in the state, but then they're from
Correct.
another state,
Right.
so whatever.
Yeah, it's
But
just everybody's perspective's a little bit different on it, and
Yeah.
nobody's right or wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just your perspective.
Just like
and
you
how
said, we're trying to say what is best for the child.
Yeah.
Yeah,
circumstance.
exactly.
That's the most important part of the
Exactly.
conversation.
I can agree with that. Yeah. Because I know my friend particularly, like, she, again, it was a closed adoption. She has to pay for her records.
Wow.
And
why?
And I've heard that. I've heard.
Why would she
I don't
need to
know
pay?
exactly.
That's
Like
sad.
that's just here, but like I was really upset to hear that,
Mhm.
and I even talked to a person who deals in legal adoption, and she's like, "Yeah, she shouldn't have to pay for that."
Yeah,
so
that doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know why
Right.
that is. So yeah,
Interesting.
When you are having communication with the adoptive family,
Mhm.
your birth mom, like for us, the terminology is
Yeah.
birth mom, adoptive
first
mom.
mom, yeah.
With our sons, we're
Yeah.
mom, and then there's this
Right.
birth mom
Yeah.
for us right now because they're still so little.
Right.
As you're advancing, have you guys talked about
Mhm.
what will he call you? What does he
Yeah.
call adoptive mom?
Mhm.
Is there a difference in it for each side?
Right, yeah, that's a great question, and I actually talked to her about this the other day. Like, he right now calls me by my first name, Sarah.
Okay.
He knows me by that,
Mhm.
but because they didn't want to confuse Mama,
Sure.
because he's still so little,
Mhm.
and I understand that. She has referenced me in talking,
Mhm.
like when we're on the phone,
Mhm.
as Mama Sarah,
Mhm.
but I understand because he's so young, he can't
Sure.
comprehend everything yet.
Right.
So for now, she's Mama and I'm just Sarah. But as he grows, he will know me as Mama Sarah.
Okay.
So that's what we had agreed on,
Mhm.
and I'm totally fine with that. I understand when you're like 2.5,
Right.
you can't
Mhm.
put everything together. So I
Right.
understand.
Yeah.
So
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, so that's just our relationship. Because obviously, like she's told him from like the beginning, you
Right.
know, like I mean, obviously he probably can't comprehend all of that
Mhm.
at once, but yeah, like, so he calls me Sarah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah, for meeting with us today. And we just so appreciate it because truly a person in your shoes, I feel that the adoptive parent side is the one that's really talked about. Like people are
Yeah.
vocal
Yes.
about it.
that's right.
And just to be able to hear from someone who's personally gone through that experience and what that meant for you is just really invaluable. So thank you for being willing to do
Thank you so much
that.
for having me and letting me talk.
Well, we
Of course.
appreciate it.
But yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
As you know from listening to the podcast, we close in prayer, and Sarah has offered to do that for us. So thanks, Sarah. Take it
You're
away.
welcome. Father God, I just thank you so much for this time together. I thank you that you have connected us, Father, for such a time as this. And I just thank you, God, that for the opportunity that we have to talk about this, Lord, despite our experiences, Lord. And I just thank you for everyone that's listening right now, God. I just thank you that they are listening today. And I just pray for every adoptive parent out there, Father. I pray for every birth mom right now, even adoptee or even anyone that's just curious, Father God, that your light would continue to shine, Father God. And for every birth mom, I just pray that you would give them wisdom and guidance, Father God. Even if they've been through this, pray that you would give them comfort and peace, Lord, if they don't have that right now. And I just pray for every adoptive parent, Father God, that is hopeful, Lord. I thank you that you have the right baby for them, and I thank you that you have the right family, Father, an extended family through their biological parents as well, Lord. And I just thank you for this time. Thank you for allowing us to come together and talk openly about this and have these conversations. And I pray that everything that we've talked about here today would just be sealed by your mercy and grace. And we thank you, God, in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find us on any major podcast platform and on Instagram at Adoption Side by Side to listen to more episodes and follow along in our personal adoption journeys as they change.